Welcome back to TJM Angling. Today I'm going to show you how to tie a Zig Rig. These are especially good in the spring and into summer, as this you can tie it any length you want, but it's in the middle of the water column opposed to on the bottom or on the surface. So I'm going to walk you through step by step and show you what components I use and other little tips and tricks to tie on this rig. So let's go and show you that now. Here are the things we need to tie our Zig Rig then. Starting off, we've got the line. I'm using 12 pound, the Quarter Cruiser Control floater line. I use the 12 pound as it's the strongest they do, and I don't see much point in going any weaker than that, to be honest. Some places I do fish are very snaggy, so that's why I've gone for the 12 pound, but they also do 8 and 10 pound, so it just really depends on the water you're fishing. Secondly, of course, scissors, obviously needed for trimming the rig. Then hooks. I prefer a wide gape style of hook, but it's just personal preference because I prefer it with the straight eye rather than it in-turned or out-turned. And then swivels to connect it to the lead system. And the two things I prefer to use are Zig Links by Nash, as they just give it some movement, and then Fox Zig Aligners, as I find them really easy to use and easy to set up, and they give it a nice neat presentation. So let's start to tie this rig up now, and I'll walk you through it step by step. Here are the components we need to start tying this rig then. We've got the scissors, the line, and obviously the hooks. So to start off, you need to take a length of line. So here's one I made earlier. For this video, the line's going to be quite short, but that's just to make it easy to look at. But obviously when you're tying it up, you can tie it to whatever depth you want. So starting by trimming the line, the next thing is to get out a hook, like so, and then just tie it on with whatever knot you prefer to tie it on with. Personally, I prefer the Palomar knot, as I find it quite simple, and that's just pass it through the eye of the hook, back through. So essentially it's got so I just run up on a double up piece of line, and then just tie an overhand loop knot, like so, and then pass the hook through the loop you just created, just like that. Give it a little moisten just before you tighten it down. So that you can also get a rig puller in, which I probably would do if I was tying this rig properly, but just for the sake of the video, then we'll do it like that. And then obviously trim the tag end. So that's the hook tied on, and now we need to go on to adding the aligner and the Zig Links, and then tying the swivel on. So let's show you that. So for this second section then, we need the Fox Zig Aligner kit and the Nash Zig Links. We're only going to be mainly focusing on the actual aligner of the kit, so we don't need to worry about the loading tool or the foam just yet. So let's just pop these out of the way and show you how we use that. So at the hook end, all that is slid through the loop end first. There's like a little channel that runs through the actual rubber itself, and then passing out the thin end. The reason I use these is it gives a nice neat presentation, and rather than a traditional hair rig, the foam is trapped at the back of the hook, because I found when using a hair, then the foam could be round the side a little bit and it just didn't look as neat. But if you are using a hair rig, then you need to remember to tie it nice and short, as when the fish sucks it in, there's very little movement in the zig, as it's all tensioned by the foam. Then moving on to the Zig Link, all that is a little piece of tungsten here, and then run into a little piece of silicone that fits over the eye of the swivel. So that's just threaded down the thinner tungsten end first, and then out of the thicker silicone. And all this does is provide a little bit of movement. So when it's like this on the bottom, just gives them enough rope so they can hang themselves, I suppose. And rather than it just being rigid and stiff, the rig does have a little bit of movement, which I like. So the next step will be tying on the swivel, so let's show you how to do that. Here's stage 3 of this tying this Zig Rig then. All we need are swivels and the piece of rig that we've tied up so far. So all we need is to get a swivel out of the packet. I just tie it on the end of the line closest to the Zig link. To do this, all I use is a Palomar knot, which I used to tie the hook on earlier, and that is just simply pass it through the eye or the ring and then back through. So it's running on a doubled up piece of line with a little loop at the end, and then tie an overhand knot and then put the swivel through this little loop, like so. It does seem a little bit complicated, but once you master this knot, it's really easy to tie. So there we go, and then all we need to do is trim the tag end, like so, and then slide the Zig link down and into position on the swivel. Put the tag end inside, just pull it out nice and tight. So there we go, that's nice and neat. All we need to do now is add the foam into here, and then we'll be ready to fish. So let's show you how to do that. Here's the final step then before we can cast this out, and for this we're going to need the rig we've tied so far and the aligner kit from Fox. And I've already taken the loading tool and the colour of foam of my choice out. So all we need to do is put the foam inside the thicker end of the loading tool. I think this loading tool I heard originated from a biro pen. So it's like that, it just holds it in and clamps it tight. But it's modified and turned into this, so it's a bit sleeker than a biro pen. But, you know, it works. And then all we need to do is pass the thinner end through the loop, which will then open up, and we can just pull the foam inside the loop. Can be a little bit fiddly, but once it's done, and I find the loading tool just kind of slips off when you're through to a certain amount. I don't know if that's good or bad, but I quite like it, as then I can trim them up all the same. And then all we need to do is cut the foam to our desired length, like so, and it's ready to go. Our Zig Rig is finished, so now all we need to do is cast it out. Let's show you what it looks like underwater, and hopefully we can have a few fish. Well then, that's all for this edition of TJM Angling. Thank you for watching. I hope you found this how-to guide for the Zig Rig helpful. I use Zig Rigs quite a lot in my fishing, and I find them very effective in the spring and summer, and hopefully you do too. Remember to like, comment and subscribe, and in the meantime, enjoy your fishing.